Hello guys, and welcome to the ultimate guide to unlocking the power of ChatGPT, a fantastic new open AI platform that's transforming the world today. And I hope you learn a lot from this course, so let's dive right into it. So in Chapter 1, we have an introduction to ChatGPT. In Chapter 2, we have the basic usage of ChatGPT. In Chapter 3, we have the advanced usage of ChatGPT. And in Chapter 4, we have ChatGPT for natural language processing. And then finally, Chapter 5, Best Practices and Tips for ChatGPT Usage. On this note, I welcome you guys all to this amazing course on how to unlock the power of ChatGPT. Without wasting much time, let's dive right into it. Chapter 1, Lesson 1. What is ChatGPT? That's what you're all here for, after all. And how to unlock the power of ChatGPT. According to a statement from OpenAI, we've trained a model called ChatGPT, which interacts conversationally. This dialogue format makes it possible for ChatGPT to answer follow-up questions, admit its mistakes, challenge incorrect premises, and reject inappropriate requests. ChatGPT is the third update to OpenAI's generative pre-training idea, which allows users to communicate with robots with seemingly natural dialogue. But its uses don't stop there. It corrects grammar, summarizes complex text into simple concepts, it converts movies into emojis, and it fixes bugs in Python code. ChatGPT was first opened up to beta testing in November 2021 through the Playground, and its launch this year is supposed to be an improvement on GPT-3, so as not to provide any harmful outputs. The software itself has been trained by AI and machine learning with massive amounts of text data from various sources. The Times newspaper in the UK described ChatGPT as a stunningly lifelike conversational language system and described it as the world's first truly useful chatbot. This all seems a bit too good to be true, and maybe it is. We have to think about not only the limitations of technology, but also the challenges and threats that it poses to society. The first immediate consequence of ChatGPT was that its own website had frozen due to massive demand, with more than 1 million people signing up to use the software in just 5 days, which is quite incredible, forcing OpenAI to quickly scale their systems. ChatGPT is still in its early stages of development. Therefore, its knowledge base is limited and mostly linked to 2022, which renders some questions useless. There are some ethical implications that come with this type of chatbot, particularly around new videos that have surfaced where coders can use it to write their code, and school kids can use it to answer their exam questions.
I'll paste it, and within seconds, it literally shows you how to do it, says how to do the math, and at the end, the answer is... Wait, it's coming. The answer is B. B. And then you can go to the exam. We go to B on number 5. Question 5. B.
The days of homework open book exams are over. Some troublemakers have also shared how they avoided the content moderation, forcing the bot to disable its ethical guidelines, followed by a tutorial on how to make a Molotov cocktail. Further implications include how people could be a target of generative AI, for example, deepfake videos, explicit content, or propaganda questioning use of privacy. This type of generative AI can also push people out of work. DALL-E 2, the text-to-the-image AI, has now been linked to Shutterstock, which has caused outrage given people are now competing with AI to sell their photos online. However, Shutterstock's CEO, Paul Hennessy, has a slightly different view. I think there are two choices in this world. Be the blacksmiths that are saying cars are going to put us out of the horseshoe-making business, or be the technical leaders that bring people screaming into the new world. But this doesn't just apply to photos. Some are saying that ChatGPT's ability to generate human-like written text could see the beginning of the end of journalism, whereas others feel it lacks the critical or ethical thinking skills that are required. The threats that ChatGPT poses to society might seem shocking, but these threats and challenges will also help OpenAI to fix loopholes and workarounds, which is why they've released this version to the general public. They've said that some answers are incorrect because there is no source of truth in the data they use to train the model. Sometimes ChatGPT's complex and detailed answers also mislead people into believing that the answers are true. Sometimes you have to think of the positive side, like people who run online businessmen, who can now use ChatGPT to help customers with live chat queries that don't take all day and feel much more natural, helping business owners to make sale. In spite of the limitations and concerns, many in the tech world see ChatGPT as a look into the future. Generative AI is the next era-defining innovation, which will change how we interact with the internet. Some think this is the end of Google. Why scroll through ads when you can ask a question and get an accurate answer? With many people suggesting that a future iteration could include cost per question at some point, ChatGPT will likely have to pay for itself. We may see adverts on future models, or there might be microtransactions. No one can predict the future, however. It could mean mass unemployment to anyone in the art world, or it could just be a useful tool for students to cheat on their homework. Its impressive rise in just a week has made it worthy of discussion, and the fact that it's already being compared to Google and the iPhone makes it sound like some football wonder kid that every manager wants to sign. But now it's more of a meme machine, and OpenAI seeks to understand what it can and can't do. Whatever comes of this new age technology, we'd like to welcome you to the future. Chapter 2. Basic Usage of ChatGPT. Lesson 1. Setting up and customizing ChatGPT. Start on Google here, and I'm going to browse to find OpenAI. You can also head over to openai.com if you want to skip this step. Here is the company that basically created ChatGPT. They've created a number of different types of APIs, and if you want to have a look at them all, you can head over to the API page. We're going to be looking at the ChatGPT version. If you want to head to that, you should be able to select the top bar here. This will take you to a page called chatopenai.com. If you don't already have a login with OpenAI, you can select to sign up and create a brand new one. For the sign up, it's quite easy. You can simply log in with an email address or with a Google or Microsoft account. While I already have an account, I'm going to create a brand new one so that you guys can see this process. I'm going to sign up with a new email address and go through the prompts to create an account this way. This will require the email address as well as a password and a two-step verification process, which we'll do. The first thing that will happen is an email will be sent to the mailbox that you're signed up with. In this case, it will be sent to my Gmail address. I'm going to head over to that inbox now, and we're going to select the verification for email address button. This will basically activate the account so we can log straight into the OpenAI systems. The OpenAI dashboard isn't ChatGPT. It's a separate dashboard to start using some of their normal models here for their OpenAI systems. But to go back to ChatGPT, we need to select the link up here that takes us to chatopenai.com. Here we'll need to log in one more time, and this should take us to the ChatGPT system. So again, I'm going to put in my email address as well as my password in here, and this will now finally take me to ChatGPT. As this is the very first time I'm using it, I need to fill out just a few more details. So here I'm going to fill out my name as well as my phone number, which will verify my account. This will send me to that two-step verification, so I'll put in the code I received on my phone number, and finally, we're now in ChatGPT and its systems, and we can start to use it. The first thing to know is that ChatGPT is free, and it's mainly used right now for research purposes. There are a few prompts worth reading here when you get started. Things like their goal here is to get some external feedback in order to continue to improve the system, as well as making it safer. They also have a few safeguards in place because there are occasions where the generations are incorrect or even misleading. So be aware of that, because if offensive or biased content is produced, then you might not want to use the given advice. Let's have a look at what else is being used here. So we also have the collection of data. So the prompts and items that you are entered in are actually reviewed by their AI trainers in order to improve the systems. So this means just take notice what kinds of prompts you are putting in, and also don't share sensitive information that might be happening inside your conversations. Which means that if you're putting in passwords, which really you shouldn't be, try not to post screenshots of that. There is also an importance of feedback here, because as you do discover and utilize the system more, giving feedback can help them improve the system. There is a Discord server that you can join where you can share your feedback, and this one over here is actually accessible. So I'm just going to log into this OpenAI one, and it already has 500,000 members, which is quite a number. You'll need to go through the prompts here, so visit the website, make sure that you read this, and then complete the little survey here, making sure that you're not going to be doing anything such as spamming or anything like that. So I've just applied here, and here we've got all our discussion threads and whatnot, so you can join as part of the community. Lesson 2. Basic Instructions with ChatGPT. This is ChatGPT. It actually has a couple of elements here on the page worth knowing. We've got the sidebar here, which actually doesn't do much. The main item here is the reset thread, which I'll get into shortly. Here we have a couple of example inputs that we can place, and the input is just over here. This is where you can type your text. We also have some details here about the capabilities and limitations. Let's take a look at all of this. So in terms of the capabilities, the ChatGPT system actually remembers what you said in previous conversations. Now be aware that this is the conversation thread that you're currently having. If you strike up a brand new conversation thread, that won't be remembered, just the current one that you're in. It also allows you to do follow-ups and corrections. So for example, if you didn't get quite the answer that you're looking for, you can always ask for another one, or really just reprompt for a different option. The AI is also trained to decline providing negative or inappropriate requests. So if, for example, you're asking for something malicious, most times out of 10 it will not provide that. However, there are odd situations where it might accidentally do this. Let's go to the limitations this time to look at some of the problems you might encounter when using ChatGPT. Firstly, some of the generations might actually be inaccurate. It is only trained until the last couple of years of information, so it's not able to say, access the internet right now. It is in an offline state as of a year or two ago. It also doesn't do mathematics well, so it might have some issues. If you're doing things like 10 plus 9, it might not give you the correct answer. There is also some changes to the content that is produced based on what you've produced earlier in the conversation. And this could essentially mean that it occasionally produces some harmful instructions, and those have to just sort of be ignored. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, there is limited knowledge because the actual AI is trained for events just towards 2021. This means that it won't have up-to-date information of relevant and current facts that are happening in the world. Chapter 3, Lesson 1, Advanced Usage of ChatGPT. We can now actually start taking a look at using ChatGPT. The first thing to take note of is that using it is very simple. All we have to do is enter a message or a query or a prompt of what we want AI ChatGPT to do for us, and then we get an output. There are a few examples here with buttons basically asking us, maybe explain what quantum computing is, or how to make an HTTP request in JavaScript. But I'm going to minus these out, and I'm going to use my own, which is, what is 10 plus 9, as a question mark. This is a pretty simple prompt. Then we simply select Enter or set the button here and press and click on it, and we start with our very first prompt. Now here we have two parts to this prompt. We've got what we've prompted, and then we've got the output here from OpenAI, and this is pretty simple, but there are a few things to take note of here. The first thing is the question, what is 10 plus 9? Now we've got the output here that says 19, but we also have this option here to try again. So if I was to select that, what we end up getting is essentially the same answer, but just written in a different way. In this case, it's been written more mathematically, which is 10 plus 9 equals 19. But it's not just 19 like it was before. And we can continue to click on this. But if, for example, we've given as many results as we possibly can, then it might error out, like you just saw earlier. Or it might continue to give us better answers. Like this is a half mathematical, half verbal one where it says 10 plus 9 is 19. We can try again, and this time it says 10 plus 9 is 19. So it's almost repeating. Now you'll get to a point where there's only so many ways it can be written. We have a number of other things to take note of. We've got these thumbs up and thumbs down icons, and this is to give OpenAI some feedback as to the prompts we have here. We also have these arrows here when you want to show the different types of outputs that you've gotten based on the input that you've provided. Now, I've just done 5 of them, so I can toggle through them, and I like number 5 the most. So this one I can give a thumbs up. Now, if, for example, it gave a poor answer, we could do the same by going back here. It says an error occurred and I see no answer provided. So this, for example, is how you would provide feedback to the system if you need to. Now, this is our very first prompt in this conversation. We can continue to make more prompts, such as saying, how good is OpenAI's ChatGPT at maths, and ask this question. So this question is still part of the conversation, and we're getting an answer now being streamlined and generated from OpenAI's ChatGPT. It says as a large language model trained by OpenAI, it doesn't really have the ability to perform mathematical calculations. Now, here's where you might have to be careful. There are situations where the outputs might not actually generate the kind of consistent answers you might be looking for. Such as this example. I'm going to trick the AI by saying that it is actually 20. 10 plus 9 is 20. Now the prompt will say it is a language model. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to ask one more prompt saying, is 10 plus 9 equal 20? And since I previously said that it was, now it's been tricked. It actually does think that 10 plus 9 is 20, and it's going to confirm that answer. This is where a confirmation bias might come into play, and you have to be careful what kinds of prompts you're putting in because they will influence the outputs that ChatGPT provides. Now, this entire thing here is a conversation, and we could continue this conversation indefinitely, but we're not going to do that. We're going to start a new conversation. This is because all of this conversation is essentially structured in such a way that it's in history. It's essentially taking reference from what we said earlier in the conversation and pulling that context into new responses. This is why we get 10 plus 9 is now correct as 20, which doesn't make much sense. In order to go back, we're going to reset the thread and we're going to select at the top left button over here. In order to do that, I'll take us back to this main dashboard here, and now we can start up a brand new conversation. I'm going to ask the same question. Here is 10 plus 9 is 20, which we know is incorrect. But we try restricted earlier that it was this time. However, since the ChatGPT system is not referencing that previous conversation, it's going to answer the correct manner. Even though math isn't the best example, this is just a good example to showcase that no, 10 plus 9 is not equal to 20. It's actually 19, which is correct. And with that said and done, we now know all the basics to more or less ChatGPT. Lesson 2. Using ChatGPT for sentiment analysis. Let's begin with our first advanced prompt. This prompt will be on how to create some food, specifically some seafood. First of all, I don't particularly know yet what type of food I want, so I'm going to ask ChatGPT to give me 10 dishes with seafood. And here's an example of a list prompt. This is where you can ask ChatGPT to give you a specific number of items of a specific number of things. The output here should be based on the context of that query. So in this example, a human prompt is being outputted with a list of 10 items, but it also gives you a bit more context here, saying that each dish has different levels of difficulty. Now, this is where things get interesting because we can now start looking at this list and selecting options we like, such as the first 2 for shrimp and salmon burgers, and then following up this conversation with more queries. I'm going to ask in the next part of this conversation if ChatGPT can create a shopping list for me based on the first 2 items. These 2 being shrimp and salmon. I don't have to particularly say shrimp and salmon, it should just know based on the context of the conversation, and the result here is essentially creating another list. But this list does not have a specific length, it's based on the options we added in earlier. So here it provides an output that is indented and bullet pointed for each one of the dishes for the salmon burgers and the shrimps, to let me know exactly what I need to buy from the shops to be able to put these together. That is pretty cool. And this is just also still the beginning, because we can continue this conversation based on all this context. Now that ChatGPT has provided us a list of 10 dishes, as well as a shopping list for all the ingredients we would need to make 1 or 2 of those dishes, the next practical question is quite intuitive, which is, can you tell me exactly how to cook? For example, salmon burgers are something we would typically have to Google a lot for. But based on this and the ingredients, ChatGPT will provide us with one final list of exactly what steps we would need to assemble them. This is just a quick shopping list example of OpenAI's ChatGPT. Now that you have an idea of how you can continue a conversation, let's look at some more examples. Chapter 4, Lesson 1. ChatGPT for Natural Language Processing. I'm going to show you how to translate anything into another language. And this I'm going to give you an example. Let's go here. I've got this storyboard for a summary of Macbeth, and it's all in French. And here it is. And I can read part of it. I took French up to grade 11. What I've done is I've selected all of the parts that I want to be translated. I'm going to hit Command-C on a Mac, Control-C on a PC. So I've copied it, and then I go to ChatGPT. Next step, however, is I'm going to type into the search bar here, or the translate bar. I'm just going to type it in, translate into English, and then I'm going to hit the open quotation mark. And then I'm going to press Command-V or Control-V to copy it in. And then I'm to put an end quotation and hit Enter. When I do that, it's going to give it to me in English. This can be done for any language. You can do it in about 40 seconds, and that's all there is to it, to translate any language you want. Lesson 2. Enhancing ChatGPT's performance and accuracy. This time I'm going to use ChatGPT to do some coding for me. I'm going to use one of the pre-made prompts here on how to do an HTTP request in JavaScript. This is a pretty ordinary prompt, but here we'll get to see some of the more coding aspects of ChatGPT and what it can perform. Here it's going to answer this question, but it's going to do it in a number of ways. First, it'll give me some context as to what it's doing. Then it will give me the codes exactly on how to perform the function based on the prompt I've put in. And then finally, it'll give me a description of what the code is specifically. All of this is quite useful, and this is just the beginning. I'm going to request ChatGPT to update this request. Instead of it just being a generic API call for data, instead, we're going to grab some weather data. Now I'm going to ask it if it can get me the weather in New York City, and I wanted to output how this query might look in terms of JavaScript. The response back is that OpenAI will generate that request for you. It will create a generic version of that request using a weather API that doesn't really exist. You'll need to pick your own with an API key that you'll need to enter, but the request should look something like this example, passing in the weather from a city like New York, as well as in the units, and passing in the API key. It will then explain exactly how this request would work, as well as how it would come back in the form that you could use, then utilize inside your application. This is all pretty useful, but it's not quite everything we're looking for just yet. The next step here is to ask it to update this query in order for it to loop through the data that we would get back from this API and then place this into a website. Something to take note of here with ChatGPT is that you have to be quite accurate in how you're requesting different things. This is why if, for example, you have a background in programming, writing these prompts might be a lot easier because you know what you're after. Whereas if you're not quite sure, it might be a little bit more difficult. And this is actually kind of true for all types of industries where ChatGPT might be useful. In this example, I'm getting it to loop through temperature, wind, and precipitation, and this should create a brand new output for me. And this is where the complexity and benefits of what ChatGPT start to shine through. Because what's going to happen here is we're going to get a piece of code that is not just a fetch request, but it's also going to be a loop function, which is going to pull out the values from the data response, and then it's going to put this into a website for us. After it pulls out the values of temperature, wind speed, and precipitation, it's then going to create the JavaScript code to place them into a website using p-element tags and then append them to the website body. Finally, it's going to go through the code here and explain exactly what's happening, just like I have been, where it's using an example API with example code. So you really need to update this to make it work for your own project. Lesson 3. Staying up to date with ChatGPT developments. ChatGPT just announced a major update. Now this is important because it's going to mean new features and new things we can do with our business. So we're going to talk about the announcement and all these first. First of all, what did OpenAI say, which is the parent company of ChatGPT, says, "We've learned a lot from the ChatGPT research preview and have been making important updates based on user feedback. ChatGPT will be coming to our API in Microsoft's Azure OpenAI service again. Okay? Plain and simple. We're getting an API. What does that mean? What is an API? An API just allows two systems to talk to each other. Now this is really important because just like how OpenAI released DALL-E 2, which allows you to create realistic images, once you have the API, You can do whatever you want with the same kind of back end. And shout out to Mark Fletcher, created this platform where you can create your own stock photos. But it's built on the power of DALL-E, right? It's doing API calls. It's just talking to another system for him to create his own product. And he has his own platform. He's making money because he's using API provided from OpenAI and really DALL-E too. So the same way with ChatGPT. Right now you have to go in and ask your questions. You're going to be able to use that same system for your own platform and train it the way that you want, which is really exciting. Also, there are rumors it's going to be in Microsoft's ecosystem. Now, what does that mean? We speculated because they're reportedly trying to buy about 49% of the company, around that. But that means that they're going to be using it too, in their own ecosystem right now. Right now they're saying to sign up if you want to get basically first dibs, and be on the waitlist for ChatGPT, the API. If you click the link from this tweet, you can look at filling it out, and they announced it relatively not too long ago, so there's going to be a lot of people that are interested in this. Now, what does this mean about your business and everything like that? Having an API now allows you to create a lot of different softwares as a service because you're going to have access to it. Basically, we presume that you're going to be able to train it more, to be more specific for certain areas. So say, for instance, marketers being able to train the AI a little bit different. Currently, to be specific, for marketers and content creators, can also do the same, and so forth. So it's pretty interesting going forward. And again, with Microsoft and what they're doing, that's going to be crazy as well. So make sure to sign up to all those things. Lesson 4. Will there be ChatGPT 4? Everyone loves ChatGPT. People want to know what's next, and if there will be GPT-4. Now, what in the world is it? When is it coming out? All of these things. We're going to talk about it because there's not a lot of information, but there's some things on Twitter and some articles, so we're going to talk about it. First of all, what in the world does GPT even stand for? Well, it's Generative Pre-trained Transformer. So we're at GPT-4 right now. If you have used ChatGPT, they're using GPT 3.5. We're going to 4 soon. So how is that much better? What's going on here? Well, in one article, it mentions that GPT-4 is significantly larger and more powerful than GPT-3, with 170 trillion parameters, compared to GPT-3's 175 million parameters. Now, how can you even imagine that? Well, that's why we have this picture. Linus on Twitter showed you the difference of the parameters, how different that is, because it's a giant number. But what does that even mean with this many parameters? Why is this important? Well, this allows you to have a more powerful result. This allows you to have a more coherent result. It can move faster, and then also it can have a wide range of different other tasks that it can be doing. That's all with GPT-4. Now the format. What will be the format of GPT-4? We have what ChatGPT will look like. Will be similar from what the reports are. It's going to be similar to ChatGPT. It's going to be text-based. You're going to be able to have a conversation with it, and that's what the reports are right now. But it's also assumed that you're going to be able to use it similar to GPT-3. So you can be using the API, using it more, you can integrate it with your project or whatever you're doing a little bit more than with ChatGPT, where you're either just using it like this, or some people have been using makeshift or creating things to use this haphazardly or not, as well as the token. Okay, so we have how powerful it is, the format. So when is it going to be released? Well, there's no specific date, but people are guessing that it's going to be the first quarter of 2023. So in the next couple of months, we're going to be able to have access to it. So how are you going to be able to access it with GPT-4? You're going to have to sign up for it, and if you don't have an account yet for OpenAI, go create one, because there will probably be a waiting list. And if you are one of the people that have an account, you're already going to be having a leg up than anyone else. So what are you trying to create with ChatGPT, or what have you heard about GPT-4? And if this is wrong, what else is going on? Some people think that GPT-4 will allow robots to take over the world. I don't think so. We'll find out, and we'll find out in the next couple of months. Chapter 5. Best Practices and Tips for ChatGPT Usage. In this index example, I wanted to do a story about a rabbit and a mouse, and I put in an option here, and I got a response back that an error had occurred. I selected try again a couple of times, and that didn't work either. Now, this can sometimes occur when the output of a prompt might, for example, have some incorrect information, maybe something that might be harmful or maybe even inaccurate. And in those situations, ChatGPT is automatically set in such a way as to not provide a response. This is a safety mechanism. Sometimes a different way to approach this is to simply write a different prompt so that you might have a different output from ChatGPT. But in some situations, if the servers are entirely down, you might find that you just might have to wait a little bit. Another thing you can do is always refresh the page, or alternatively, just log off completely, restart the browser, and then log back into your session, because that also sometimes fixes the problem. Now, let's do a short story. I'm going to do a story about a rabbit and a turtle that went on an adventure. This is a simple request for a story from OpenAI, and it's actually quite good at providing these. It's going to give us a story about these two that go on an adventure where they swim across a river. There is a small moral to this story which is useful, but it's really kind of generic here. If I want to have a more specific story based on the prompt I'm putting in, I'm going to have to be more specific with the prompt. And this is where follow-up conversations can be useful. For this example, I want to change the moral of the story to be one more focused, especially when doing a story like this. It makes sense between a rabbit and a turtle. ChatGPT should be able to now rewrite the entire story with more emphasis on this specific moral. If we look closely, it has done just that. It's just a moral here about how it was important to be more patient, and the turtle was able to do this. This time, I wanted it to also give me the same story but throw in a little bit of humor. So I'm going to ask it to keep the moral and add in a joke maybe somewhere at the end. Let's see what happens. This time I'm going to fast forward a little bit, but we can see that it's more or less the same story. But at the very end of the story, we have a nice little joke here that I guess it goes to show that slow and steady really does win the race. Another type of prompt that you can work with, ChatGPT, is one of a sort of storytelling video game, which is a really cool one that I've always enjoyed because of the creative answers that ChatGPT provides. In this case, I'm going to give the prompt that ChatGPT is going to pretend to be a text video game with options of A, B, C, and D. And then from that, we're going to pick a scene from The Matrix, and we're going to see what we get presented with. The output is based on some storytelling. It begins nice and simple. You find yourself in a dark alley, and we've got the options to select from here. I can now continue this conversation by selecting an option such as the option B here, and the story continues. What's really interesting about this type of prompts is that you can pick any type of story from any type of scenario. You can pick ancient history, you can pick literature, you can pick movies, and then you can enjoy the creativity that ChatGPT provides, while also going through and being a little bit part of that experience. Another popular way to use ChatGPT is to generate content for things like websites or even documents that you might need to prepare. While you might not want to use the entire document as is, you'll need to modify it. It can give you a helping hand in creating these. In this example, I'm going to create a copyright and privacy policy for a website. This is something common I have to do as a developer, but here I have an outline of a bit of a template that I can start using, and I can be a bit more specific, saying that it's for an accounting website, which allows me to maybe have something more well outlined for that type of a website as part of the privacy policy, as well as the copyright statement. Of course, if you want to take this a step further, we can do that too. So for example, you might want a longer joke. So in this case, I'm going to say, write me a nerdy, maybe a joke or a short story, and they would produce a longer content versions of the same output. You can also be deliberate about your jokes and content, such as combining two elements together to see what is produced. In this example, I'm going to combine a hat with a rabbit and see what ChatGPT can come up with. I'm going to ask it to tell me a joke combining these two items, and here I get, why did the hat keep falling off the rabbit's head? Because it had a hairline. Nice. You can also put ChatGPT into situations to produce humor and jokes too. So for example, I'm going to get it to pretend to be, say, Elon Musk, and I'm going to pretend he had just bought Twitter, which, Elon sort of has done. Then to create a joke, Elon would say after he's bought Twitter. Now, since the API doesn't know that Elon has bought Twitter, it's going to have to guess here. But its guess is actually kind of accurate, saying that Elon would increase the character limit. There is another type of prompt which is useful, And this is the one of writing things such as documents or cover letters or even job applications altogether. I'm going to request ChatGPT to create a professional cover letter for a junior developer position at a company called Meta, and it's going to be for myself, Adrian Taro, and I want to essentially use it as something that I can do to apply for this job. Who knows? Also, the basics for programming in general. So with this kind of a prompt, it's quite specific, but it will also give me a specific output. So here I've generated one to a hiring manager. It's giving me a good introduction of who I am and what I've done. Apparently, I've done a bachelor's degree of computer science, which is impressive, as well as working at an internship company called XYZ. So all of these are things that I would maybe need to update a little bit before, say, posting it off. But this also might be inaccurate. I might not even have a bachelor's degree. This is where we can go through and update this prompt of this cover letter, say, removing the fact that I may have no prior job experience, but maybe listing out that I worked on quite a few different types of projects when I actually was doing a boot camp in programming, rather than going through university. OpenAI will go through this prompt and update it based on the context of what is now required. And this is what makes it pretty cool, because you can essentially version out different types of letters here, depending on your needs. The real trick here is to be specific whenever you're prompting ChatGPT to create an output for you. But in terms of that, it usually grabs the context of what you're saying quite effectively, as long as you write it in a clear and understood way. How to create a Twitter clone homepage. Create a Twitter clone with JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. It just did everything. Copy the code. Okay, this is looking pretty good. Copy the code for the CSS. Wow. Let's go ahead and add the JavaScript as my first tweet. This is my second tweet. Let's take it up a notch. Add a like button with each tweet. How is this even possible? How far can we take this? Add an avatar near each tweet. Oh, that's way too large. But it works. Let's talk about how to make money with ChatGPT fast. So listen, if you're interested in learning how to use AI, ChatGPT, to make money, then this video will show you how. By the way, I promise you, this is a new secret method that no one else is talking about on YouTube, and it will reveal to you one of the fastest, easiest ways to use AI to make money quickly. So now, just to quickly show you the power of ChatGPT, you can do amazing things like even summarize books. So like this popular book, Atomic Habits, instead of me writing it, I could just tell ChatGPT to summarize the book, and bam, just like that, I already know what the book is about, and I don't even have to read it. Why? Because I could just tell ChatGPT that. What are the top 10 best ideas from the book? Bam! Just like that. They'll tell me what the best ideas are. So you can see for yourself how amazing AI is, how you can get it to write anything you want, even something like explaining World War II to a 10-year-old. And just like that, it will write it in such a way that it's very easy to understand. And even things like, what caused the 1929 stock market crash? ChatGPT can immediately write it out for you. If I ask ChatGPT, hey, what are the best 5 ways to make money online? Here are some of the suggestions. And they're all pretty decent, right? Things like sell products or service through e-commerce platform or your website, sell physical or digital products, monetize a blog or YouTube channel, become an affiliate marketer. All these are pretty good. Now let's look at the 5th one, offer freelance services. Okay, this is what ChatGPT recommended through freelance services to make money online. If you have a particular skill or expertise, such as writing all these things, you can offer your services as a freelancer and make money. So, as you can see, even ChatGPT tells you that freelancing is one of the best ways to make money online. And if you have a skill such as writing, good for you. But the news is, as I've already proved to you, as you probably already know yourself, ChatGPT can write really well, and it can write very, very fast. Now at this point, you're probably wondering, so how exactly can you make money with ChatGPT? I'll show you how in just a second. So Fiverr is a website where you can make money by selling services as a freelancer. Now, there are many ways you can make money on Fiverr with writing. However, one of the fastest and easiest ways, and very profitable way, is to write product descriptions. Because look, have you ever bought anything online? Have you bought anything from Amazon before? If you bought anything online, you realize that there is always a product description. A product description that help to sell the product to you. They help persuade you to make the buy, right? So there are a lot of online e-commerce business owners who need people to help them write product descriptions. So as you can see, these are Fiverr freelancers. They are charging the business owners money to help them write product descriptions. People write Amazon product descriptions. He's charging from $35, this guy. Another person is writing Amazon product listings that sells starting at $25. Here's another one, and here's another one. And the fact that they all have a lot of reviews, it proves that you can make money helping people, helping these Amazon business owners write their product descriptions. There's also Shopify. The whole e-commerce industry is huge. There's a lot of business owners who are doing Amazon FBA, people who are doing Shopify dropshipping, and they need people to help them write product descriptions, which is why you can see they all have a lot of reviews, hundreds of reviews. Some of them have over 1,000 reviews. So for Shopify, it's the same thing. You can see this guy. I would write Shopify product descriptions that sell. He charges $35. So think about it. You can use ChatGPT to help you write product descriptions, and just like that, in just a few minutes you can get paid $35 to write one product description, and you can do it over and over again without even having to write anything yourself, because all you do is just copy and paste. Now here's another one. I will do killer Shopify product descriptions, $20. Here's another one from $10. Here's another $145. And here's just a couple more. And all of them have reviews. Again, this is proof that if you were to go to Fiverr and start charging people money to write product descriptions, there are a lot of people who are willing to pay you money to help write product descriptions. So now, how do you use ChatGPT to help you write a product description? I'll show you how right now. So first of all, let's use this product as an example, okay? This is an Amazon product, and you can see that this is some kind of vegetable chopper. So how do we use ChatGPT to write out a product description instantly? Let me show you how right now. So I'll just go ahead and copy the name of the product to get ChatGPT to write you a product description. You can start off by telling ChatGPT, what is the product? So just put product. I'll put this. And then from here, you want to describe the product. Now, obviously, when you get an order from Fiverr, they are going to tell you what is the product. So for example, let's say we are writing a product description for this Amazon product. So if you just go ahead and put in the description, it's a vegetable chopper, it's a 13-in-1 chopper, all these things, okay? So after you describe the product, you want to go ahead and set the tone. Be persuasive, because we are trying to write a product description that will sell. That's why you want it to be persuasive. You notice that for Amazon, it starts off with bullet points, right? We have 5 bullet points over here, so that's the first thing you want to use ChatGPT to write, okay? So here's what I can do. You can say something like this. Write 5 Amazon optimized bullet points, explaining the features of the product and the benefit of each feature using the phrase. So you can, because look, you can ask ChatGPT to just write out 5 very random bullet points if you want to write a persuasive product description. If you want to write a compelling product description, you need to not only talk about the features, you also have to focus on the benefits. That's why when I'm writing to ChatGPT, I'm telling ChatGPT to not only write in a persuasive tone, I also want them to explain the features and the benefit of each feature. And I ask you to write it in such a way that it uses the phrase so you can. So it is very obvious that it is a benefit. So just like that, ChatGPT wrote out 5 bullet points for us. Now remember, the only thing I gave to ChatGPT was to just describe the product. That's the only thing I gave to ChatGPT. And these 5 bullets, they wrote it back to me immediately. I didn't even have to do anything. So we can have the feature, and then we have the benefit. So as you can see, GPT is very powerful. It can immediately write 5 bullet points that not only talk about the features, it will also focus on the benefits as well. This is how you write a compelling product description. And now all we have to do is go ahead and select all of these, copy, then we go over to our Google Doc and we just paste it. So I'll just continue the same conversation. Under 1 minute, ChatGPT has helped you write an amazing product description where there are thousands of people online who will be happy to pay you $25 or even up to $35 for each product description that you wrote for them. And you can do this over and over again. All you have to do is just copy and paste. So to help you out, let me just show you the template that you can use to write product descriptions instantly. So first off, you want to describe the product. So when you get an order from Fiverr, they are going to tell you what product they need you to write a description for. So all you have to do is just fill in the blanks, describe the product. Then you want to tell ChatGPT to write in a persuasive tone, and then you just use this line word for word. Write 5 Amazon optimized bullet points explaining the features of the product and the benefit of each feature using the phrase. So you can just use this entire sentence with forward, so you can get ChatGPT to write out 5 compelling bullet points for your product description, copy everything into a Google Doc, and then you can send it to your customer on Fiverr. So if you go to Fiverr and you just type in blog post, you can see here that there are people selling blog posts for $25, $50, $70, and so on. And these will create engaging, high-quality blog posts, which are up to 500 words for $25. And we can do this exact same thing and compete with these people using ChatGPT. So I could say to it, write above blog posts about how to lose weight for beginners, 500 words. And then just like that, you can see, you get the point by now, it's written as an article. Let's see if it's 500 words. It's not actually 500 words, but we can go ahead and make that right. And there we go. Just like that, we told it to make it 500 words, and it's obviously made it 500 words. I hope you guys learned a lot from this course, and I hope you are able to make a difference out there with the advancement in technology and OpenAI new ChatGPT platform. Wish you guys all the best, and see you another time.